Alright, welcome back to the Roblox course, and in this lecture we're going to start creating moving platforms. So that just as a quick note, I have added some folders here so that each of the stages, let's say between our platforms, is all within one folder, so the Explorer is a bit, tidied up, let's say. And yeah, so that's just a quick thing. And also I have renamed all of the platforms that we're gonna start moving and rotating. So yeah, we're going to start with this moving platform. And the idea here is that what we want to do is we want it to move from here, basically up to here, and then back. So that's basically all we want to do. And of course, we can do that with a script. Now, the first thing to note here is that we're going to call this moving script. The thing to note here is that, and this is one of the beautiful things in scripting and coding and programming, this is just one way we can do it. There are plenty of other ways that we could do this, but this is just something I thought of, and, let's just see how this works, but it's going to work fine. So, first of all, we're going to get the part. So this is simply, once again, script.parent. So we're going to take the script, and we're going to get the parent. So then we have the part that the script is attached to. Then we're going to make two local variables, one called direction, and one called speed. And this is going to be 1, and this is going to be 0.1. Then we're also going to say the part starting position. We want to have that because we want to know. So this is part.position. So of course we can look into the part and note that under the it was under the data, we have the position, and basically we want to know the starting position so that we can say, okay, if it's at the starting position, we want to move up. And then if it's at some point at the top, then we want to start moving it down again. And we can basically achieve this with this local function. So we're going to start this local function, move in y direction, right? So the idea here is that when this is called, we're going to move into the y direction, basically, in the direction of direction, basically, and then times the speed. So the idea is that a part.position should be plus equals to a new vector 3, right? So a new vector. We don't want to move in the x direction. We want to move in the y direction. So that's going to be speed times direction. And we don't want to move in the z direction. So the idea here, what happens here is simply that each time this function is called, we're going to move 0.1 into the y direction. Now, of course, if we just call it once, that's going to be, that's nothing. 0.1 is, that's a tenth of a stud it's basically nothing. So, okay, that's fine. And the question then is, why do we have this direction here? Well, what we're going to do is basically we ask, well, if this part.position.y, because this is our y position, if that is bigger than some sort of, let's say, constraint or some sort of value, if that's, if the actual position is bigger than that, then we can say, okay, now let's go back down. And the way I've drawn this up is basically we say, okay, what's the starting position at this point, right? So the starting position dot y plus some sort of, constant. So let's say, for example, 20 in this case. We can also see this if we go back here and we see right now we're at y position of 35.5 in the properties. And if we move it up, we can see that 53.5, something like that, or 55.5, I guess. That's actually pretty good for the height where we want to go. So 20 is actually kind of nice. So we're just going to write this 20 in here, and then we're going to make this even better for customization purposes. But when that happens, so when we're at 55, right? So when we're here, somewhere here, then when we want it to go down again, right? And the way we make that is we're just going to set direction to -1. Because when you remember the vector video, what we had is if we multiply a vector with -1, we're just going to turn it around. And this is exactly what we want to do. So we want to turn the direction, instead of going up, we're going down. And we also say, because we set this to -1, we also have to make sure that we set it to 1 again, right? So if the position is smaller than the starting position, so part starting position.y, then we want to make sure that the direction turns to 1 again. So we're going to make sure that this basically just makes sure that it moves from one position, in this case the starting position y plus 20, back down to the starting position, and then it's going to go back up. So that's just what this does. And we can make it so that this is called by just doing a while true loop. And then we're going to say move in y direction, and then wait, let's say 0.01. So let's make it so that it's, it waits very little. And in theory, this should already work. So let's just take our starting position and move it over here so that we can see if the platform already moves. But it should. And there we go. It is moving. And once it reaches about here, it should go back down. There you go. And now it's going back down. And once it's, sort of like here, it's going to start moving back up. You can also jump on it. And as you can see, that works totally fine. Then we can jump over and continue with the course. Or continue with the obby. Right, that's pretty good. And now, this is pretty good. But there's one thing that we can do for customization. And that is we can add an int value object here to the moving platform. We can call this, for example, I don't know, let's say y position, right? And then we can say this is 20. And then instead of having the 20 in here, we can actually have the 20 in this y position and say, for example, up here a local y position. And then we're going to say part.y position dot value. So this is an int value, and then we have to get the value out of it. And then we can say, instead of saying plus 20 here, we can say y position. And the idea of this is simply that this makes it way more robust. So we don't have to actually go into the script every time we want to change it. We can actually just change this y position to, I don't know, 50 or 100 or 200. And then it's just going to work. So that's pretty nice. This is going to be pretty valuable when we copy this for the other parts. And yeah, so that's actually pretty nice. And then we can actually move on to the other moving parts. So we're going to just, let's say, ignore the rotation for right now. We're going to continue with the moving parts, and then we're going to do the rotation. And this is the moving obstacle here. And what we can just do is we can just select both the moving script and the y position, hit Control D to copy this or to duplicate it, and then just move it to the moving obstacle here. And that should already be it. Now the question is whether or not this should also be also move 20 up, right? So we can see this is at 57 right now. So if it moves up, it will be at 77. So that's maybe a little bit, a little bit too high. So we can see, well, maybe let's make this to a 12. And then the next question is, let's just close the other script here. The other question is whether or not we maybe want to have this be a little bit faster. So we could say, well, maybe make this 0.5, right? So then this one is now 0.5. Once again, it is possible that we can put the speed as well to a value here, right? So we can do a what kind of a value would this be? This would be a number value, right? So we could make a number value in here as well and set the speed this way. That is possible. I'm going to do it like this. If you want to change it up and do the number value as well, you can of course do that. Now we're going to copy this again. So duplicate it. This is, the moving obstacle. We're going to duplicate it again. We're going to move it to this moving obstacle. That is the orange one here. And let's say that this y position is going to be a little bit different. So let's say 8. And we're going to actually move this up already so that they don't start at the same height, let's say. And then this is going to move up as well. And make sure that you look at what moving script you have. So it's good to just close them and then open them again if they're named the same. And then this is going to be maybe even faster. So something like 0.65. And then the middle one, we're going to duplicate this again and move it down here to the moving obstacle. So this is the middle one here. And this is going to be It's going to be a slower one, 3.5, but it's not going to move all that much. So maybe only 5 up and down. And we're going to move this to sort of here. So that's a little bit harder to actually jump over. Let's make it 1 more down, right? Something like that. So let's actually see whether or not this worked. But I'm sure it did. So let's make sure that we catch this. Ah, we didn't catch it. Well, too bad. But let's just move the spawning platform a little bit closer here, and then I think it's going to be fine. There we go. We can already see that they're moving, so that's pretty good. And then if we go here, and then jump over here. Well, so much for that one. Well, doesn't matter. So we have seen that they're moving. We, of course, still need to test whether or not they're, moving at the right speed, and if we can still jump over it. But I'm fairly certain that that's pretty good. And we're going to see this after we've done the rotation as well. So let's see what we can do with the rotation platform. Right, so before we look at the rotating platforms, let's actually also add the moving here to the big moving obstacles. The great thing is, once again, we can just duplicate it and pull it down towards the other object here, and then do the same thing for for both big moving obstacles. And then let's say we want to change the position for this one to maybe 14, and this one to, maybe something crazy, like 20 as well. And then what we can do is we can also set up the speed properly. So let's say one of them is like really fast with 8.5, and the other one is also fast, let's say 0.6. Right. So now all of the platforms are moving, and we can of course always tweak the numbers later when we see maybe, oh, okay, this is definitely too fast or too slow. Then we can always tweak the numbers. That's something that is, just, it's an iterative process, right? You try something, doesn't work, you maybe tweak the numbers a little bit, and then you continue. Right. So now off to the rotating platforms. Now the rotating platforms are actually almost, the same difficulty, I would say. So this is going to be the rotating script. Of course, all the scripts are once again available as a resource. And this is going to be script.parent, and also the entire Roblox Studio file is, of course, also available in different stages of development, let's say. So we have it for each lecture, you can get the file. So yeah. Right, so let's say we need the part, of course, doing script.parent again. We also need the speed. So let's just put this to 7.5, and the direction. So that stays the same, direction. There you go. And that's going to be 1. And then we also need basically once again the angles at which we want to stop, right? So the idea here is that we want to rotate it, so we look at the orientation, and we want to change this X orientation. So we can take a look at this. Is it the X or is it Z? We're going to see. No, it's actually Z. Okay, that's fine. So the idea is that we maybe want to go from here to here, in a sort of continuous manner. So 45 might be a little much. So let's say make it, let's just call this a Z1, make it 35 maybe. And then in the other direction, which would be Z2, this would be negative 35. Right. And so we're going to alternate between negative 35 and 35 in the orientation. And we're going to do this exactly the same, exactly the same way. So I'm going to do a while true loop. And we're going to say the part dot orientation this time is plus equals a new vector here, which is going to be not in the X direction, but in the Z direction, direction times speed. And then we just have to say exactly the same thing as we did before. So we have to do part.orientation.z. If that is bigger or equal, sorry, Z, there you go, or Z, if it's bigger or equal than Z2, then we want to change the direction to, no, actually Z1. Then we want to go into the negative direction, so direction equals 1. And if the part.orientation.z is smaller or equal to z2, then we want a direction to be -1. I do believe that that should be... No, it's the other way around. This is negative, this is positive. I mean, we can just look at it if it turns around for endlessly or if it doesn't do anything, and we're gonna see. Well, I mean, first of all, this is... Yep, that's a crash, and I can tell you why. Okay, actually, there we go. So, as you can see, we just got a crash. This is a script timeout, and the idea is that because this was a while loop and we just did it endlessly and we didn't have a wait in here, it just went completely nuts. Now, with the wait in here, we're actually fine. As you can see, now it actually works. And it does work perfectly fine, as you can see. Yeah, so that's actually pretty good. I'm gonna definitely let that stay in here, because sometimes it's very good to see those, you know, it wasn't an insane error or it wasn't a huge mistake. It was just, okay, we just forgot a wait function call. And yeah, that can actually lead to what you've just seen. So, and now we can actually see this is pretty good. Now those look pretty nice as well, so we can go over here. Those are also going to be rotating as well. And we're going to do that now. So let's, yeah, that's pretty nice. And that actually does work perfectly well. So let's go to these two. And let's just, once again, duplicate the rotating script and put it to the first one. What we're going to do here is we're going to actually rotate this one 45 degrees already. So it starts sort of offset. I'm going to do the same one here. I'm going to just duplicate it again, put it in, and then change the speed just a little bit, you know? So let's say this is maybe 0.5, and then the other one is going to be 0.65, something like that. And we're also going to keep the 35 degrees. Now this is of course 45 degrees, but they're going to start in this position and then they're going to change up. So let's just see if we can see it from the distance. As you can see, they're now moving. Yeah, that's pretty good actually. So they're completely moving in a frequency that is... I mean, they have nothing to do with each other in the sense that they... Oh, now they're actually moving completely in parallel, but that's more... Yeah, but because they have a different speed, of course, that sometimes might happen. But that's pretty good. So that's... Oh. Yeah, so that's pretty good. I would say that this one probably can get a little bit closer here. Maybe this one a little bit closer, and then this one also a little bit closer, just so that it's that we can do it. But yeah, that's pretty good for the moving platforms. Let's actually see the last moving platform there. So we've done that. Let's just move the spawn to here, and let's just see, or yeah, that's fine. Let's just see how they actually move. So this one's way too fast, I feel like. And I also don't believe that you could jump over it. So this one needs to be a little bit lower down and a little bit slower, because otherwise... Yeah, so let's do 0.75 maybe. And a little bit lower down. So let's see how that one looks. I think that that's fine. I think that that's fine. Let's put the spawn maybe over here. And then let's see if we can... if we could complete the course, at least at the end here. So let's go left for now, the green path. Of course, you can't step on it. You could also prevent that, you know, making it really thin or making it even bigger. But I think that that's actually not too bad right now. So that's pretty good. Yeah, so that was basically the adding of the movement scripts. Like I said, and the rotation, of course, as well. All of the scripts and the Roblox file is available for download as a resource here. And yeah, that was it for this lecture. I hope it was informative to you. If there are any questions, of course, always feel free to ask, and I'll be sure to respond. And yeah.